I was 15 when I realized my family would rather let me suffer than care. The fever came like a wave. Hot, dizzying, relentless. My sheets clung to my skin, damp with sweat. I remember staring at the ceiling fan, watching its slow rotation blur, wishing it could pull the heat out of me. My throat burned every time I swallowed. From the next room came the sharp, overlapping voices of my parents. Not worry, not concern, but an argument. Something about bills, reputation, and my father's precious business dinner. Their words cut through the wall like blades. Mom sharply, if she stopped pretending to be sick every other week, maybe we wouldn't have to cancel plans. Dad dryly, she's always been dramatic. Let her sleep it off. Their voices drifted into a muffled hum, then laughter. It wasn't cruel laughter, just detached, casual. That somehow made it worse. I tried calling out. My voice came out as a rasp. Mom? No answer. Dad? Only the faint clinking of dishes, then silence. The floor felt like ice when I swung my legs down. My head spun so hard I had to grip the edge of my nightstand. The smell of dust and cold wood filled my nose. I crawled halfway to their door before collapsing against the wall. From under the crack of their doorway, a faint yellow light flickered. I could hear my mother moving around, the sound of her heels, the rustle of her silk dress. She was getting ready to go out. Mom from inside, she'll be fine. I left soup in the kitchen. Dad, she should learn not to rely on us so much. My stomach turned. I wanted to scream. I didn't ask to rely on you. But I couldn't find the strength. My breath came in shallow bursts, sharp and dry. I heard the front door shut a few minutes later. The click of the lock sounded like a verdict. I lay there for hours, halfway between the hallway and my room. The light outside dimmed until the only glow came from my alarm clock. 11:48 p.m. The red numbers bled across the darkness like open wounds. My body trembled uncontrollably, every muscle aching. Somewhere between delirium and exhaustion, I whispered to myself, "You're fine. You're fine. You'll always be fine." That lie became my first survival skill. A faint sound pulled me awake, soft footsteps. My little sister, Emily, peeked from her doorway, clutching her stuffed bear. Emily whispering, "Maya, you okay?" Me weakly, "Go back to bed, Emily. Mom said not to bother you." She hesitated, then stepped closer. Her small hand brushed mine, cold and certain. That touch was the only warmth in the house that night. I forced a smile. "Emmy, it's okay, Em. I'll be fine." She nodded, then retreated, her door closing softly. The silence after that was so complete it felt like pressure on my eardrums. The air smelled of detergent and metal, the radiator clicking weakly against the wall. I pressed my cheek to the wooden floor and thought about the silver bracelet my mother had given me when I was 10. "So you'll always remember you're loved." It lay on the nightstand now, catching the faint glow from the clock. I stared at it until my vision blurred. The irony made my chest ache. When morning came, I woke to birdsong and a headache so fierce it made my teeth throb. My parents were already up. Coffee cups clinked. Laughter drifted from the kitchen. I stayed still, listening. Mom to someone on the phone, cheerful. "Oh, Maya? She's fine. She was just faking it again. You know how teenagers are." Her voice was light, almost proud, like she was sharing an amusing anecdote. Something in me snapped, not loudly, but quietly, like a thread stretched to thin. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just stared at the bracelet on my nightstand and felt nothing. That morning, as my mother laughed about my drama, I decided I'd never ask them for help again, and I meant it. In our family, silence wasn't peace, it was punishment. I used to think the quiet meant everything was fine, that the lack of yelling was a sign of order. But in our house, quiet meant you'd disappointed someone. The clinking of cutlery at dinner could sound like gunfire when no one dared to speak. My mother's smile never reached her eyes, and my father's sighs were the only applause I ever got. I learned early that approval came in fragments: a nod when I did something useful, a glance when I didn't mess up, but never warmth. My younger siblings floated through the house like favored ghosts, soaking in attention I couldn't seem to earn. Sometimes I tried to imagine what it would feel like to be wanted, to have someone notice when I wasn't okay. But then I'd hear my mother humming downstairs, setting the table for 4 instead of 5, and I'd remember my place. That's when I started to write. Not stories, not letters, just thoughts I couldn't say aloud. My journal became my voice in a house that refused to listen. Every page soaked up words that would have gotten me scolded if spoken. Mother calm, dismissive. "You could have ironed your brother's shirt before he left." I shouldn't have to remind you. Me quiet. I did. It's hanging by the door. Mother glances without looking up, then maybe try harder next time. It still looked wrinkled. Pause. The air feels heavy. Father from his paper. You know your sister's applying for scholarships, right? You should take notes from her discipline. Me. She's 2 years younger. Father. And already ahead. Silence follows. I stare at the food. Untouched. Mother forced smile. We only push you because you're the eldest. It's love. Me internally. If this is love, I don't want it. The dining room smelled of lemon polish and cold roast. My mother's bracelets clinked as she cut her food, rhythmic, controlled. The overhead light buzzed faintly, the only sound between us. I could feel the heat of my father's disapproval across the table, a silent glare that burned worse than words. Later, in my room, the air turned still. The journal lay open beside the lamp, ink smudged from where my hand had trembled. I wrote one more line before closing it. They only see me when I make mistakes. That night, I woke to the creak of my door and saw my mother standing over my desk, my journal open in her hands. She read my pain like it was gossip. I should have known something was off the moment my mother's smile lasted too long. Her laughter at the dinner table wasn't natural. It was stretched thin, like a thread about to snap. My siblings exchanged glances, the kind they saved for private jokes. I felt a slow unease crawl up my spine. The journal wasn't on my desk this morning. I'd convinced myself I'd misplaced it, maybe shoved it under a pile of notes. But when my mother reached into her purse tonight and pulled it out, my lungs turned to stone. She didn't even look at me first. She looked at everyone else, her audience. Mother cheerful, performative. You all have to hear this. Our poet has been writing. She opens the journal, flipping through pages with deliberate slowness. Me. Mom, don't. Mother. Oh, come on. It's adorable. She clears her throat theatrically. Mother reading. Sometimes I wonder if they'd even notice if I disappeared. Pauses to smile. You hear that? Such drama. You'd think we were starving her or something. Laughter erupts from siblings. Sister mocking. You always were the sensitive one. Brother, maybe she's auditioning for a movie. Me. Stop it. Mother still smiling. Oh, don't be so serious. You wrote it, didn't you? Father, without looking up from his plate. If she spent half this energy on real problems, she'd have fewer imaginary ones. Silence spreads sharp, suffocating. I wanted to shout, to snatch the journal from her hands and tear it apart, but my body wouldn't move. My voice dissolved somewhere in my throat. Every word she read was a wound reopening. Every laugh was salt grinding into it. This was supposed to be dinner. Ordinary, dull, predictable. Now it was a public execution, and my mother held the blade. My heart didn't race. It retreated. I sat perfectly still because any movement would betray how much it hurt. I remember noticing the hum of the refrigerator, the scrape of my father's knife against porcelain, small, cruel sounds that filled the space my dignity used to occupy. Mother softly, almost pitying. You know we love you, right? But you make it so hard sometimes. These things you write, why would you want to make us look like villains? Me quietly. They weren't for anyone to read. Father, then you shouldn't have written them down. He finally looks at me. Eyes flat. Life's not therapy. Sister grinning. You should thank her. At least now we all know how tragic your life feels. Laughter again shorter. Meaner. Mother closes the journal, satisfied. Now, let's eat before the food gets cold. The smell of burnt garlic clung to the air. My fork scraped the edge of the plate, metal against ceramic, a sound that felt louder than breathing. The room was warm to warm, but my hands were cold. The light above the table flickered once, just enough to throw everyone's faces into shadow for a split second. When it steadied, I caught my mother's reflection in the silver serving spoon, distorted, smiling. My journal lay beside her wine glass, edges curling from her fingerprints. It looked smaller now, weaker, like it had betrayed me too. Something shifted then, not a loud realization, but a quiet cracking inside my chest. If love meant this kind of exposure, I didn't want it anymore. I watched them eat and laugh, pretending nothing had happened, while I silently buried every ounce of trust I had left. I didn't feel sadness. I felt stillness. Cold, steady stillness, the kind that waits. I reached for my water glass, but my hands didn't shake this time. They were steady enough to plan. That same night, I packed a small bag and hid it under my bed, my first step toward leaving. My escape came in a plain white envelope. It was sitting on the kitchen counter, half buried under grocery coupons and unopened bills. So ordinary, it almost disappeared. My name, handwritten. The university's seal stamped faintly on the corner. I ran my fingers along the flap, feeling the rough paper tremble against my skin. For a second, I didn't open it. Because deep down, I already knew whatever was inside that envelope would change everything. Freedom doesn't always arrive in grand gestures. Sometimes it comes folded, quiet, waiting for you to decide if you're brave enough to touch it. Me quietly. I got it. Mother, without looking up from her phone. Got what? Me. The scholarship. For the journalism program. Mother flatly. Oh, that's nice. Pause. Father from behind his newspaper. Full ride? Me. Partial. Mother. So, not really a scholarship then. Just luck. Forced smile still. Maybe you'll finally learn something practical. Me. It's in Riverton. Classes start in August. Silence. Father dryly. Riverton's 3 hours away. Mother, who's paying for the rest of it? Me. I'll figure it out. Mother shrugs. Well, don't expect us to bail you out if you can't. Her voice was calm to calm, like she was testing how much I'd been before breaking. Part of me wanted to scream. Another part wanted her approval so badly I almost offered to stay. It's strange when you've spent your life earning scraps of love, even cruelty feels like attention, but something about that envelope hardened me. It wasn't luck. It wasn't chance. It was mine, a door I built myself, brick by invisible brick, while they pretended not to see. When my mother brushed past me to grab her purse, she left the envelope on the table. Her perfume, sharp, floral, lingered, mixing with the faint metallic smell of the paper. I stared at it until the room blurred. The refrigerator hummed. The clock ticked loud enough to feel like mockery. A single ray of sunlight fell across the counter, catching the envelope's edge, a small flash of gold against white. The air felt thick, unmoving, as if the house itself didn't want me to leave. I pressed the envelope to my chest for a heartbeat, then tucked it into my backpack. My hands were steady, the same steadiness I'd felt the night I packed that hidden bag. Sister from the doorway, teasing. Don't forget us when you're famous. Me forcing a smile. I won't. Mother smirking. If she makes it that far. College isn't therapy, sweetheart. Don't think running away will fix you. Beat. Father turning the page. She'll be back in a month. The words hit harder because they sounded so casual, like a weather prediction. Certain. Unchangeable. I didn't argue. I just nodded, pretending agreement. Let them think I was fragile, naive, temporary. That's what made it easier to disappear. I packed light, clothes, a notebook, the bracelet I never wore anymore, and the journal my mother mocked. I almost left it behind, but then I remembered her laughter echoing in that dining room, and I slid it into my bag. Maybe, one day, it would remind me why I left. The bus station smelled of diesel and rain. My ticket felt damp in my hand, edges softening. I sat by the window, watching people hurry past, all of them belonging somewhere. When the engine growled to life, I turned back toward the road leading home. My parents stood by the gate, not even waving. My father's arms crossed, my mother's expression unreadable, as if I were just another errand she didn't have time for. The bus lurched forward. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink. But as the city faded behind me, I felt something burn inside, not sadness, not loss. It was cleaner, sharper, like the first breath after drowning. 3 weeks later, my mother called, but not to ask how I was. It was déjà vu, except this time. No one even pretended to care. The fluorescent lights above me hummed an uneven rhythm, like a cheap lullaby that couldn't decide whether to comfort or annoy. My eyelids felt like sandpaper, my limbs heavy with the weight of 2 jobs and too many sleepless nights. I'd been working the evening shift at the diner, then tutoring freshmen until dawn, thinking I could outrun exhaustion. I couldn't. When I came to, a nurse's voice floated in soft, cautious. Nurse, you passed out at work, sweetheart. Dehydration? Fatigue? Maybe a little malnutrition. We've been trying to reach your emergency contact. Her tone faltered on that last word. I already knew what she meant. Me hoarse. My parents? Nurse. Yes. No answer. We left a few messages. The monitor beside me beeped like a quiet accusation. I stared at the 4 taped to my arm, thin plastic pretending to keep me alive. Inside, something cracked. The first time I was hospitalized, I'd still believed someone would show up. Back then, I had clung to that childish hope that maybe I'd just been too invisible before, that if I truly needed them, they'd appear. Now I knew better. The nurse, middle-aged, kind eyes, faint smell of jasmine lotion stayed even after her shift ended. She sat near the foot of my bed, knitting something blue. Her presence filled the room with a warmth I couldn't name. Me. You don't have to stay. I'm fine. Nurse smiling. If I believed every kid who said that, half this ward would be empty. Her chuckle was gentle, but I heard the truth under it. She'd seen too many like me. People abandoned, not because they were bad, but because their absence made life easier for others. Hours passed. The clock ticked like slow dripping water. Every second stretched into something sharp. My body rested, but my mind didn't. Why am I still waiting for them to call back? I imagined my mother seeing the hospital's missed call, sighing, maybe turning the phone over so she wouldn't have to feel guilty. My father, probably in the living room, pretending he didn't notice. That silent teamwork, that synchronized indifference had always been their greatest talent. Emmy softly. Do people ever stop waiting? Nurse pausing her knitting. No, they just learn to live around the waiting. Her words landed quietly, like a small truth wrapped in a lullaby. I didn't cry. I just watched the pattern of her knitting needles catch the light, the metallic rhythm steadier than my own heartbeat. By morning, I could walk again. The nurse helped me sign discharge papers, her handwriting looping neatly beside mine. Nurse, eat something decent, will you? Me. I'll try, nurse, and if you ever need someone to talk to here. She scribbled a number on the back of my medical bill. The irony wasn't lost on me. The one person who offered care wrote it on something that cost me money. Still, I folded the paper like it was sacred. Outside, the city air was sharp, autumn, biting through my thin sweater. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from Mom. Mom text. Don't exaggerate. You'll be fine. That was it. No greeting. No, how are you? Just the same emotional anesthesia she'd used my entire life. I stood by the bus stop, screen glowing in the early morning haze. My reflection in the glass looked unfamiliar. Eyes hollow but steady, skin pale, jaw tight. Somewhere deep down, something shifted. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was a kind of quiet resignation. And the first seed of cold resolve. Maybe family didn't have to mean blood. Maybe love could grow in borrowed kindness, in the warmth of a stranger's jasmine-scented hands. But betrayal? Betrayal only needed blood to bloom. I looked at the folded paper with her phone number, the nurses, and then at the message from my mother, still glowing on screen. One represented the care I was finally starting to believe I deserved. The other, the life I needed to end, not literally, but emotionally. The wind picked up, scattering yellow leaves across the sidewalk like torn pages. I took one last deep breath, typed a single reply, and hit send. Me text. You're right. I'll be fine without you. As the bus pulled away, my phone buzzed again, but it wasn't her name on the screen this time. Sometimes survival means erasing the parts of yourself they can hurt. The first thing I learned was silence. Not the kind that comes with peace. The kind that weighs on your chest until you forget what your own voice sounds like. I stopped answering my mother's calls first, then my father's, then the occasional family updates my sister sent as if she were reading from a newsletter. Each ignored notification felt like a rebellion written in pixels. Mom text. You're becoming distant. Don't act like a stranger. Me typed. Deleted. Typed again. Me eventually. Just busy. I stared at the 3 dots blinking on the screen. Her reply forming, hesitating, dying out. The chat went silent. That silence became my sanctuary. A T first. Cutting them off felt like pulling my own teeth. Slow, bloody, necessary. I'd pace around my small apartment after work, muttering half-formed apologies to no one. Am I being cruel? Or finally, fair? Bills stacked like quiet witnesses on my table. Rent, utilities, tuition. I learned budgeting by necessity, not choice. I ate cheap noodles, walked instead of taking buses, picked up double shifts. Each exhausted night became proof I could live without them. Coworker concerned. You all right? You look pale. Me forcing a smile. I'm learning to sleep less. Coworker. That's not something to learn. His words lingered, but I brushed them off. Rest was a luxury for people still clinging to comfort. I had traded comfort for control. Days blurred into weeks. My phone stopped lighting up with missed calls. For the first time, my life was quiet. Painfully, beautifully quiet. I filled that silence with motion. Online courses, night classes, freelance work. Every hour I spent building something new was one less hour spent remembering who I used to beg for love. Inner thought, if pain was a currency, I was learning to spend it wisely. The folded paper, the nurse's number stayed taped inside my notebook. I never called her, but I looked at it sometimes. Not as a reminder to reach out, but as proof that someone once had stayed when they didn't have to. It became my anchor when exhaustion whispered that disappearing wasn't strength, it was cowardice. Me murmuring to myself, no, it's survival. I started changing little things about myself, the way I dressed, the way I spoke. I deleted old photos, old emails, even my childhood playlists. Each deletion felt like a funeral for someone I didn't want to be anymore. Friend half joking, you're like a ghost lately. Me quietly, ghosts don't get hurt. Friend pausing, you sure that's living? Me, it's better than bleeding. They laughed awkwardly, but I didn't. My discipline became religion. Up early, study, work, study more. The exhaustion that used to break me now fueled me. Inner thought, maybe rage isn't always loud. Maybe it's the calm voice that says keep going. One night, I sat by my window with my laptop open, updating my RSUM. Each line I typed felt like reclaiming oxygen. Academic assistant, freelance editor, independent researcher, independent. That word hit differently. I leaned back, the city outside glowing faintly. Golden light on glass, faint hum of traffic. I was building a version of myself they'd never recognize, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. The quiet wasn't loneliness anymore. It was strategy. The distance wasn't grief anymore. It was armor. When you disappear, right, no one even knows where to aim. I was starting to like that. Then my phone buzzed. A new message. Unknown number, but I knew the tone instantly. Father text, you've changed. Don't forget who raised you. My throat tightened, heartbeat thudding against the quiet. I stared at the screen, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Realizing the past I buried had just found my number again. I built what they never gave me, stability. I didn't have a safety net. Just a flickering laptop, a half-broken chair, and a hunger that never stopped gnawing. The first gigs were humiliating. Writing product descriptions for faceless companies. Editing emails for people who didn't even bother spelling my name right. But every time I hit submit, I felt something tighten and strengthen inside me. Client chat message, payment processed. Good work, me. Thank you. I can start the next one tonight. No complaints, no excuses, just movement. While others slept, I watched the city lights from my cracked window and thought, they'll never see me coming. My folded paper, the nurse's number sat taped to the corner of my laptop. It had started to yellow around the edges, but I couldn't throw it away. It reminded me that kindness once existed, even if not from my own bloodline. That scrap of paper became my compass when I felt like quitting. Weeks bled into months. I learned how to price, pitch, and protect myself. When a client underpaid me, I didn't beg. I invoiced twice. When they ghosted, I learned to find replacements. Me on call. Calm but firm. I appreciate the opportunity. But my rates are non-negotiable now. Client hesitant laugh. You've gotten confident. Me. Just tired of being underfed. My tone startled even me. Confidence felt strange, like a new skin. I wasn't sure fit yet. Money didn't come fast, but it came steady. And steady was something I'd never had. I rented a smaller apartment in a quieter block, peeling paint, faint smell of damp wood, but the lock worked, and no one yelled through the walls. That was enough. Each night I'd lay out plans on the table, columns of figures, notes, and unpaid invoices. The rhythmic click of typing became my lullaby. Inner thought, if survival had a sound, it would be the clatter of a cheap keyboard at 2 a.m. A year passed. Freelance turned into a business. A consulting brand with a real logo, real clients, and real responsibility. I learned to fake calmness during calls, smile through uncertainty, and send contracts that didn't shake in my hand. But behind the new website and polished tone, the old rage stayed. Quiet, patient, useful. Sometimes, my parents' names still popped up on my phone, usually after I posted something on LinkedIn. A new client, a testimonial, a minor success. Mom voicemail. We saw your update. That's wonderful, sweetheart. You've always been so talented. We're proud of you. Inner thought, funny. Pride looks different when money's involved. Me text. Thanks. Hope you're all doing well. Mom, we are. Your father's asking how business is going. You must be doing so well now. There it was. The question wrapped in flattery, the curiosity masked as love. Me, it's fine. I'm just keeping busy. I could almost hear the silence on the other end, the disappointment of not hearing numbers. Inner thought, they don't miss me. They miss control. By my second year, I had 3 contractors under me. 2 remote editors and 1 designer. We weren't big, but we were consistent. Every invoice I sent felt like reclaiming a piece of what they took. Dignity, stability, choice. I'd sit at my desk, candle burning beside the laptop, phone face down, imagining what they'd say if they saw me now. Would they apologize? Probably not. Would they want to benefit? Definitely. One evening, as I signed the contract for my first major client, the screen reflected my own smile, faint, but real, inner thought. This was what freedom looked like. Not luxury, but control. I leaned back, letting the silence fill the room. Outside, the rain tapped against the window, soft and rhythmic like applause from the universe itself. For the first time in years, I felt like I was no longer surviving. I was building. Then the phone rang. Mom. I almost ignored it. Almost. But the word major was still echoing in my chest. And for a second, I wanted to share it. Not for validation. Just proof that I made it despite them. I picked up Emmy cautiously. Hey, Mom. Her voice trembling. Maya, please. I need to talk to you. It's about your father. Me. What happened? Mom. He's not well. Please don't hang up. The sound of her crying, the same woman who once looked right through me, felt like a trick my mind didn't know how to decode. Was it real this time? Or another way to pull me back? The rain outside grew louder, drumming against the window as her sobs echoed through the line, and for the first time in years, I didn't know whether to feel concern or suspicion. For the first time in years, my mother's voice shook. It was a sound I didn't recognize at first, fragile, uncertain, almost human. I was halfway through drafting a client proposal when my phone lit up with her name. I nearly let it ring out. We hadn't spoken properly in years, and even then, our last conversation ended with silence sharp enough to cut through bone. Her voice broke the quiet. Something's happened to your sister. For a second, I froze. Old instincts, the same ones trained to fix, to soothe, to sacrifice, flared up before logic could smother them. I could still see that small bedroom I used to hide in, the one they never bothered to knock on. I almost asked if my sister was hurt, almost, but my mother's tone wasn't grief. It was panic, the kind born from fear of exposure, not loss. Mother hurried, trembling. She made a mistake. Some credit card nonsense. You know how kids are. Me. She's 23, Mom. Not a kid. Silence. I hear muffled voices in the background. My father, maybe? Mother. Your father's furious. We just need to pay off the amount before it escalates. It's 60,000, maybe 70. I let the number sink in. 60,000. Almost the same figure they once refused to spend when I begged for tuition help. Emmy steady. And why are you calling me? Mother. Because you're doing well now, aren't you? Your business, those clients. She stops herself, tries to sound softer. You're the responsible one. You always were. Me quietly. No, I was the invisible one. The silence shifts. I can almost hear her swallow. Mother, that's not fair. We always loved you. You just distanced yourself. Me. I distanced myself after you left me sick for 2 days on that kitchen floor. After you looked at me like I was a burden. Her breathing quickens. I imagine her pacing. I remember that sound too, heels tapping on tile whenever she lied. Mother pleading now, please, don't dig up the past. This is about family. She's your sister. Me. No, this is about convenience. You don't call to ask if I'm okay, you call when you need something. Pause. Mother snapping, voice trembling, under control. Don't be dramatic. We raised you. We gave you everything. Me. Sharp laugh. You gave me everything except a reason to come home. I can hear her choke back tears, or maybe it's guilt. Hard to tell. Both sound similar when they're forced. Mother, if you don't help her, she could go to jail. Me. Then maybe she'll finally learn what consequences feel like. The room around me seemed to shrink. The low hum of my laptop fan became a steady pulse. Outside, traffic lights bled red through the blinds. Thin, trembling streaks of color across my desk. My hand hovered over the phone, thumb brushing the crack in the screen like tracing an old scar. Her voice faded into static. But I didn't end the call yet. I just listened to the faint clinking of her bracelets, the same sound that used to mean dinner was ready. Funny how the same noise could feel like both comfort and guilt. A part of me still wanted to cave. The same tired part that once believed her approval was currency I could earn. But success had changed something in me. Not arrogance, just clarity. They never wanted me to succeed. They just wanted to know if I'd built something worth taking. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. My phone buzzed again. Another call, this time from my father. I didn't answer. Instead, I looked at my reflection in the darkened window. I didn't see the desperate kid anymore. I saw the man they created by abandoning him. I finally answered my mother's third call, and this time, I didn't raise my voice. I raised my boundaries. Success didn't taste sweet, it tasted earned. By the time I turned 32, my name wasn't just on emails, it was on contracts, magazine covers, and panels full of people pretending to understand the cost of resilience. They called me self-made. I smiled for cameras and let them believe it. The truth was simpler and uglier. I wasn't self-made. I was family forged. Every deal, every late-night sprint, every sleepless climb through spreadsheets and deadlines. It all began the day I realized no one was coming to save me. Not my parents. Not the people who watched me cry and turned away. The penthouse was quiet, too quiet sometimes. The kind of silence that echoed when I breathed. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed me a skyline that looked alive, but every flickering light reminded me of another night I'd spent alone. The city didn't care who I'd been, it only cared who I'd become. And that was enough, until one email changed everything. Phone buzzes. I glanced down, a message from my assistant. Assistant, new inquiry from Mr. Sharma, says he's an old family contact. Wants to schedule a video call. Me, family? I laughed softly, dry. I don't have any family that uses the word inquiry. Assistant, should I decline? Me, no. Send it through. Later that night, I opened my laptop. Inbox glowing against the dim room. Subject line, we're so proud of you, Maya. The sender, father. My fingers froze above the trackpad. I hadn't seen his name on a screen in over 5 years. For a moment, the room tilted. The city lights blurred like rain. I clicked. Father email. We've been following your success online. So proud of you, Beta. You've made us all look good. Everyone back home talks about your company. Your story inspires so many. My jaw tightened. That word astada me, murmuring, you mean me, not us. I reply before my anger cools, something I rarely do. Me email. Glad to know you're alive. I'm surprised you found pride in something you tried to destroy. 3 dots appear. He's typing. Father, we didn't destroy anything. We were hard on you because we wanted the best for you. I exhale, sharp and disbelieving. My reflection in the window looks calmer than I feel. Jaw still, eyes dark. Me typing. You left me when I needed you most. You refused to help when I begged. You erased me from family photos, remember? Father, don't twist things, Maya. We were going through a difficult time. You wouldn't understand. Me, no. You were going through your own comfort. You just didn't like that I wouldn't stay quiet. Silence for several minutes. Then another message, shorter this time. Father, let's not dwell on the past. We're a family. We should reconnect. Maybe come visit. Everyone misses you. Me. Everyone missed me when I became something useful. I don't hit send yet. My hand trembles slightly, not from sadness, but restraint. I hover over the keyboard, feel that old instinct to forgive, to be the bridge again. But I've learned bridges burn best when they're walked onto many times. Outside, the city pulls car horns, wind between towers, distant laughter from someone else's celebration. My office smelled faintly of coffee and ozone, that sterile scent of success. The glass reflected me twice. The woman I'd become layered over the girl who once begged for warmth. For a second, I thought about replying. A single thank you could end the silence. But some silences deserve to stay sharp. They remind you what peace actually costs. I realized something terrifying that night. I'd built my empire on the ruins of my childhood, but the ghosts still knew my address. They'd found me through a headline, and for the first time in years, I wasn't angry. I was curious. Curious what made him reach out now. Curious if success had finally become my revenge or just another test. Before I could decide whether to reply, another email came through, this time from my sister's account. They wanted a family dinner after 10 years of silence. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. We'd love to see you, sweetheart. Your father and I are visiting the States next week. The word love felt like a splinter lodged under my skin. When I finally said yes, it wasn't forgiveness that made me agree, it was curiosity. What could possibly make them reach out now? Guilt? Money? Or something worse? The restaurant they chose was too perfect. The kind of place where laughter sounded rehearsed. Warm light spilled across polished cutlery, and everyone spoke in the soft tone of people pretending they had nothing to hide. I arrived 5 minutes late, on purpose. My father rose first. His suit fit tighter than I remembered. My mother's smile froze halfway before it landed, the same smile she wore when she lied to relatives about why I'd left home. "Look at you," she said, voice trembling with pride she hadn't earned. "You've become so successful." I forced a smile. "Survival teaches you things," my father chuckled, but his eyes didn't join in. "Always the dramatic one." He gestured to the waiter. "Order whatever you like, our treat tonight." The way he said our treat made it sound like a performance, like generosity could erase what they'd done. As the waiter left, my mother reached across the table and touched my hand. Lightly, rehearsed, like testing the temperature of water. "I've missed you," she whispered. I pulled back. "You missed me when?" I asked quietly. "During the 10 years of silence, or after you found out my company made the news." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. My father sighed loudly, that old theatrical sigh he used whenever he wanted control of the room. "Let's not ruin dinner," he said. "We came to reconnect, not to dwell on the past." I tilted my head. "The past you rewrote?" He looked away, pretending to check the wine list. The waiter returned with glasses. And that was when my mother started bragging to the waiter, to no one in particular, about my discipline, my resilience, as if she'd raised those qualities in me instead of forcing them out through pain. Every compliment was a theft. Inside, I felt that old heat rising, the one I used to swallow until it burned holes in my chest. But I kept my expression neutral, the way you do when studying a predator. "You know," my father said suddenly, breaking the silence, "your sister still asks about you. She regrets how things ended." The mention of her name hit like a flicked match. "Regret," I said softly, "is cheap when no one pays for it." His smile stiffened. A small twitch pulled at the corner of his mouth, the same tell he used whenever he lied in business meetings. He lifted his glass, sipped, then nodded toward the waiter for the check. When the plates were cleared, a strange quiet settled, the kind that carries weight. My father reached into his jacket pocket and slid a small white envelope across the table toward me. "Just a small favor," he said. His tone was light, but his knuckles were pale from pressure. I looked down at the envelope, then back at him. "After 10 years, I murmured. "That's what this dinner was about." He smiled too quickly. "Don't be so cynical." My hand brushed the edge of the envelope. Something metallic clicked against my wrist. The silver bracelet I'd worn deliberately tonight. His eyes flicked to it for a fraction of a second, and I saw something raw flicker there. Recognition, maybe fear. The moment stretched thin. My mother inhaled sharply, as if she knew that one wrong word might shatter everything. I slipped the envelope into my coat pocket, smiled calmly, and said, "I'll read it when I decide if you still deserve to be family." It wasn't a favor, it was a trap. The moment I slit open the envelope, the smell of paper and old perfume hit me, the same scent my mother used to wear when she'd stand outside my locked door, pretending to care. Inside were loan documents, thick, official, merciless. Their house, the same one they kicked me out of, was on the brink of foreclosure. My father watched me read. His eyes darted between my hands and my face, searching for empathy, maybe weakness. "Things got complicated," he said. "The market, bad timing, your sister's business." "Stop," I cut in quietly. "Don't dress greed up as misfortune." He blinked, caught off guard by my calmness. My mother leaned forward, voice trembling just enough to sound rehearsed. "Sweetheart, please. We wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. We might lose the house. That house. The one where they held the police call over my head, where I packed my life into a trash bag after my sister framed me." I could still see the staircase I wasn't allowed to climb that night. I set the papers down carefully, aligning the edges as if precision might keep my temper from showing. "You want me to help save the home that you exiled me from?" My mother's eyes glistened. "We've made mistakes." I almost laughed. "You destroyed me to protect her. And now you want me to write the check to clean it up?" My father exhaled, the sound half anger, half desperation. "You're successful now. You can afford to help. This isn't about the past." I tilted my head. "That's the problem with you. For you, the past only matters when it threatens your comfort." The air between us thickened. The restaurant's soft piano music suddenly felt intrusive, like it didn't belong in the same room as what was happening. The waiter approached, offering dessert menus. My father waved him off, his jaw tightening. My mother dabbed her eyes with a napkin. "I know we hurt you," she said, voice breaking. "But this is about family. Family. The word echoed in my head like a cruel joke. Family. I repeated softly, meeting her gaze. Tell me, did that word mean anything when you handed me over to the police? When you told everyone I was a thief? Her lips trembled, but no apology came, just silence. That same silence that used to fill my old bedroom when I cried through the walls. I leaned back, the leather seat creaking faintly beneath me. My pulse stayed steady. Years of rage distilled into discipline. You should have come with honesty, I said, not bait disguised as forgiveness. My father's nostrils flared. We're still your parents. Parents earn that title, I said. You lost it when you sold your son's name to protect your daughter's lie. The waiter passed again, refilling glasses. His eyes flicked between us. Even he could feel the voltage in the air. I folded the papers, slid them neatly back into the envelope, and tucked it beside my plate. I'll think about it. My father's brow furrowed. You will? I smiled, slow, deliberate. Of course. I don't make impulsive decisions anymore. He relaxed a little, mistaking calm for consent. That was his mistake. He still hadn't learned that silence could be sharper than shouting. My mother reached for my wrist again, her fingers grazing the silver bracelet. You're still wearing it, she whispered. Always, I said. It reminds me of who I became when you left me with nothing. For a second, something flickered in her eyes, recognition of the old wound, maybe guilt trying to crawl its way out. But guilt without apology is just another manipulation. As they gathered their coats, my father cleared his throat. So, we'll wait for your decision? I stood up, brushing imaginary dust from my jacket. You won't have to wait long, he smiled faintly, misreading me again. Outside, the night was crisp, that sharp kind of cold that makes you feel every breath. The restaurant's light spilled onto the pavement, warm and golden. While their car headlights glowed pale and distant, I watched them walk away, my mother's hand gripping his arm for balance. Their silhouettes shrinking under the streetlight. Inside my coat pocket, my fingers tightened around the envelope. The paper edges bit into my palm, grounding me. It wasn't anger that burned in me anymore, it was strategy. Revenge doesn't scream. It studies, waits, smiles. I pulled out my phone, thumb hovering over the calendar app. Next Friday, my charity gala. The press would be there, cameras, reporters, and then my loving parents sitting front row, thinking they'd fooled me again. I sent the invitation that night, and for the first time in years, I couldn't wait to see them smile. If karma had a red carpet, that night it wore heels. The ballroom shimmered under golden light, chandeliers humming, camera shutters snapping like small thunderclaps. My company's 10th anniversary gala had everything I'd once dreamed of: applause, success, and the kind of people who now wanted to shake my hand for being an inspiration. But none of them knew who I was really here for. Front row, table 7, my parents. My mother in a pale gold dress, pretending confidence. My father in a navy suit, straight-backed but restless, his fingers drumming on the tablecloth like a metronome of guilt. I caught their eyes once before stepping on stage. My smile was gentle, almost warm. It wasn't forgiveness, it was theater. The mic hummed when I touched it. Good evening, I began, voice steady, calm. Tonight isn't about money or success. It's about survival, about people who rebuild themselves after being broken by the ones they trusted most. A ripple passed through the crowd. Some clapped. Others tilted their heads, curious. My parents didn't move. I could see the muscle in my father's jaw tighten. My mother's fingers curled around her champagne glass, leaving a print in the condensation. I continued, pacing slowly across the stage. When you're young, you believe family is safety. Until one day, you realize safety was the illusion they sold you to keep you obedient. A soft murmur spread. Reporters scribbled. Cameras clicked. Every word was a dagger wrapped in silk. My mother smiled faintly, that tight-lipped smile people wear when they want to appear calm in a fire. My father whispered something to her, but I didn't stop. I learned the hardest truth, I said, pausing at center stage. Sometimes blood doesn't mean loyalty. Sometimes survival means walking away from the very people who swore they loved you. Applause broke out, genuine, clueless applause from people who thought I was talking about entrepreneurship or resilience. But my parents knew. Their discomfort was almost musical. The slight shift in posture, the slow sip to hide trembling fingers. I raised my glass of water and smiled at them directly, my voice lowering, intimate now. And sometimes, when the same people come back years later asking for help, you smile and remind yourself that forgiveness doesn't mean servitude. My father's face went pale. My mother's shoulders stiffened. The camera flash caught them at that exact moment, a photo that would later appear in business magazines. Captioned, "Family Pride at CEO's Celebration." But the truth behind that photo would always belong to me. The crowd erupted again as I ended with, "To those who taught me what love isn't, thank you for showing me what strength is." Applause. Standing ovation. The sound filled the room like thunder rolling over glass. As I stepped down from the stage, handshakes came one after another. Investors, colleagues, strangers, compliments spilled like champagne. All noise, no meaning. But when I reached the front row, silence returned. My father stood up, clapping once, slow, deliberate. It wasn't approval, it was a warning. My mother leaned toward me, her perfume sharp and nostalgic. Her voice was soft, but her words were knives. "You think this makes you better than us?" I held her gaze steady. "It doesn't make me better," I said quietly. "It makes me free." She smiled, a thin, dangerous smile I remembered from childhood. "Freedom," she whispered, "is fragile, darling. Don't forget who built you." Her tone carried the chill of something unfinished. I felt it, that faint pulse of menace beneath her civility. Then the lights dimmed as the next speaker took the stage. The crowd turned their attention away. For everyone else, the night was celebration. For us, it was a cold war with cocktails. As I walked past them, the silver bracelet brushed against my wrist again, a faint metallic reminder of what they'd taken and what I'd reclaimed. I didn't look back. The applause behind me felt hollow, almost distant, like thunder from a storm. I'd already escaped. Outside, the air was crisp, the city lights reflecting off the limousine window. For a fleeting second, I let myself exhale until I saw my phone buzz in my hand. A message. Unknown number. "You shouldn't have done that." The smile faded from my face as I read it because the message ended with one word only my sister ever used for me. "Revenge doesn't always come with fire. Sometimes it comes with headlines." The video wasn't supposed to go viral. It was just a speech, a quiet confession filmed on a cracked phone in a rented hall. But by morning, my inbox was drowning in messages. And every headline had my words twisted into weapons. "Anonymous speaker exposes family greed. When love turns into leverage. Toxic parents and the price of silence." I didn't name them. Not once. But the internet didn't need names, it just needed clues. At first, I tried to stay off my phone. Every vibration felt like an aftershock. By the third day, a journalist reached out. Polite, professional, her voice soft like someone sneaking into a confession booth. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Off the record." "I think I know who your speech was about." I could hear the faint tapping of her keyboard as she spoke. That sound alone made my stomach tighten. "You don't," I said quietly. "It was just a story. A story with public records attached." She countered. "Financial transfers, legal disputes, they line up perfectly with what you described." Silence spread between us, slow and deliberate. She didn't need my confirmation. She already had it. By evening, the article dropped. Headline: "The hidden rot behind a perfect family." There it was, my parents' last name, spelled out like a brand name for hypocrisy. The world did what it always does, devoured, judged, and moved on. But my hometown didn't. Old neighbors started calling. Old classmates dug up photos. Aunt Miriam sent one text. "You think you've won? You just shamed your bloodline." At the office, whispers clung to every hallway. My assistant avoided eye contact. Even the janitor paused before greeting me. The air smelled faintly of disinfectant and fear. My boss called me in, his tone heavy with forced calm. "I read the article," he said. "Hell of a thing. You okay?" "I'm fine. They're saying your father's company's under investigation." I smiled, small, sharp, deliberate. "Are they?" He hesitated, then leaned forward. "You knew this would happen, didn't you?" My silence answered for me. That night, I sat by the window as rain dripped down like slow Morse code. The city lights blurred through the glass, glowing like bruises. Somewhere across town, my parents were probably sitting in their oversized living room, surrounded by lawyers, spinning new lies to patch old ones. I imagined my father's hand trembling as he read the article, that familiar twitch at his temple, the one that used to appear right before he said, "Don't embarrass this family." Now the embarrassment was public, permanent, and I hadn't lifted a single weapon, just words. Still, the guilt crept in, small, persistent. Did I go too far? Did I destroy them? Or just expose them? Then I remembered the hospital bills, the way my mother looked away when I begged, The way my father said, "It's not our responsibility." The guilt vanished as fast as it came. 3 days later, my receptionist buzzed me. "A courier's here," she said. "Says it's urgent." No name, just an envelope thick, heavy, sealed with red wax. My name written in that same sharp handwriting I hadn't seen in years. I turned it over in my hands, my pulse sinking with the rain outside. It smelled faintly of cigar smoke and something older. Maybe the same cologne my father used to wear when he wanted to seem respectable. Inside was a single folded page. No greeting, no apology. Just one line, written in his immaculate script. "You may think you've silenced us, but you've only lit the match." I stared at the letter, the ink still fresh, and realized the real fire was just beginning. His handwriting was shakier than I remembered, but the manipulation was the same. The paper trembled slightly as I unfolded it. Maybe it was my hand, or maybe it was his words already vibrating through me before I'd even read them. The smell hit first, faint cigar smoke mixed with that heavy cologne he used to wear. The one that always made the air feel expensive and suffocating at once. The first line was almost laughable. "My dearest child, I hope you're doing well. I've been praying for you." I read it out loud, my voice dripping with disbelief. "Praying," I muttered. "Right." The rest of the letter slid into familiar rhythm, apology coded with superiority. "We all make mistakes, but family must stay united, especially when outsiders start whispering. Your mother hasn't slept. You've hurt her more than you realize. You've embarrassed us, but we forgive you." There it was, the trifecta of guilt, shame, and conditional love all dressed up as forgiveness. Every sentence pulled me backward, into that house, where every argument ended with me apologizing for being right. I could almost hear him saying it, that careful tone, warm enough to sound fatherly, sharp enough to cut. "You think the world cares about you more than we do? Family doesn't turn its back, no matter what." My eyes caught the last line before the signature. "We only ever wanted the best for you." The same phrase he used when he refused to help my son. I let out a quiet laugh, not from humor, but from clarity. For years, that line had been a leash. Now, it was just noise on paper. I laid the letter flat on my desk. The sunlight hit it just right, highlighting the faint ink smudges where his hand must have trembled. It wasn't remorse, it was fear. He wasn't trying to rebuild anything. He was trying to control the story again. My co-worker, Erin, peeked in through the doorway. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said softly. "Just got mail from the past." "From him?" "From them." She hesitated. "Are you going to respond?" I looked back at the letter, its edges curling slightly under the desk lamp's heat. "No," I said. "I'm going to frame it." Her eyebrows lifted. "Frame it?" "As a reminder," I said, "that sometimes love isn't love. It's a transaction." That night, I bought a simple black frame. The glass was cool under my fingertips, the kind of clean that reflects every flaw around it. I slid the letter inside, smoothing the creases one last time. The handwriting, his proud, deliberate script, looked different behind glass. Powerless, contained. I hung it above my workspace, right where the light hits every morning. A daily proof that I'd finally broken the pattern. Still, even framed, it whispered, "Family is family. You'll come back someday. You always do." The words lingered long after I turned off the lights. The silence in my apartment felt heavy, like the air was listening. I lay awake, eyes fixed on the faint glow of the framed letter across the room. It almost looked alive, a relic watching me, waiting for my weakness. My phone buzzed once, breaking the stillness. Unknown number, a text preview flashed on screen. "Check your mail again." "It's my turn now." I froze. My sister's name appeared beneath it. The letter on my wall was still whispering, but now, another voice had joined in. Her words cut deeper than I expected, because they sounded like mine. The envelope was thinner this time, cream-colored instead of wax-sealed. No cigar smoke, no cologne, just the faint scent of jasmine, my sister's perfume. The handwriting was hers too, softer, rounder, every letter leaning slightly to the left, like it was tired of holding up lies. I sat at my desk, staring at it for a full minute before opening it. The framed letter from my father glared down from the wall above me, his silent judgment trapped behind glass. "It's from her," I murmured. Erin glanced up from her screen. "You sure you want to read it?" "No," I said, tearing it open anyway. The first line knocked the air out of me. "I'm sorry." Just that. No explanation, no preface. 2 words she'd never used before in our entire lives. I didn't know. The letter continued. how much they'd poisoned me against you. They said you were selfish, that you'd abandoned the family. But now I see they just needed a scapegoat. I felt something twist inside me. The anger that usually rose like smoke stayed low this time, curling inward, suffocating instead of burning. I kept reading. You don't know what it was like after you left. They watched everything I did, every call, every word. I couldn't even laugh without them asking if I was mocking them. They said you'd ruin everything and that it was my job to fix it. Her sentences grew shakier toward the bottom. The ink bled slightly near the edge, like tears had hit the paper before the words dried. I whispered her name, almost involuntarily. Clara? My mind slipped backward to the night I left home. She'd stood at the top of the staircase, arms folded, face carved in disappointment. You're so dramatic, she'd said back then. They just want what's best for us. But now, reading her letter, I realized those weren't her words. They were his, recycled, fed into her mouth like scripture. The sound of typing from the office faded. All I could hear was the faint hum of the air conditioner and the paper trembling between my fingers. The next paragraph was shorter, sharper. I know what they did to you. I know about your son. I asked why they didn't help, and they told me it was your punishment for being ungrateful. That's when I stopped praying for them and started praying for forgiveness. The sentence hit harder than any insult ever could. For the first time, she sounded like me. Hollow, disillusioned, raw. Aaron's voice broke through the quiet. What does it say? I didn't answer. My throat was too tight. Maya, I swallowed hard. It says she hates them too. So, you're not alone in this anymore. No, I whispered. But that makes it worse. Aaron frowned. Why worse? Because it means I wasn't the only one they broke. I set the letter beside my father's. The 2 pages side by side like mirrors, one written in control, the other in confession. The contrast was almost poetic. His was clean, deliberate, perfectly centered. Hers was messy, uneven, full of ink smudges and emotion. But both smelled of guilt, just different kinds. My eyes stopped at the final line. It was almost a whisper, scrawled in a hurry. They need you, Maya. Please come home. The words pulsed under the lamplight, simple and haunting. I reread them twice, once as a plea, once as a trap. A long silence filled the room. The kind that doesn't just stretch, it thickens, hardens, becomes part of the air. Aaron watched me carefully. Are you going to go home? I said, staring at the 2 letters like opposing ghosts. Not yet. I reached for a lighter from my drawer, the one I hadn't touched since the day I quit smoking. The flame flickered, soft but dangerous. I held it close to my father's letter first, then my sister's. The heat licked the edges, curling them inward, just enough to leave a scar, not enough to destroy them. Then I blew it out. They want a response, I said. I'll give them one, just not in ink. The smoke from the half-burned letters lingered above me, twisting like a warning or an invitation. Coming home felt like walking into a museum of pain. Coming home felt like walking into a museum of pain. Every wall whispered memories that should have stayed buried. The gate screeched like it remembered me, reluctant, resentful. I parked outside instead of the driveway. It felt wrong to invade what wasn't mine anymore. My mother's roses were gone, replaced with gravel and fake plants. That said everything. 15 years had changed the paint, but not the silence. My hands trembled slightly as I turned the doorknob. The air hit me like a ghost, old perfume, dust, and the faint rot of forgotten dinners. My chest tightened. I wasn't supposed to feel anything, but my body remembered every punishment, every lie, every quiet betrayal. I told myself I was here for closure. Just one night, ended on my terms. Mom, too bright, oh, you made it. Look at you, you've changed. Her smile cracked halfway through the sentence. Her eyes flicked to my wrist, the silver bracelet I'd bought myself last year. It caught the kitchen light like it wanted her to see it. Me. Yeah, time does that. I kept my voice flat. Controlled, Dad, clearing throat. Not meeting my eyes. 15 years, huh? You didn't call much. Me. Neither did you. A small pause. His jaw tightened. They guided me to the living room. Same couch. Same smell of mothballs. My father's. Slippers in the same crooked position. A picture of control masquerading as comfort. Mom. Nervous laugh. We didn't know if you'd ever come back. Your sister said you moved to the city. Doing well, I hope? Me. Well enough to get by. Mom. That's good. Eyes flick again. Car keys, bracelet, phone. Each glance felt like a calculation. Not warmth, not nostalgia. Envy. The kind that gnaws quietly. I set my bag on the floor, deliberately between us. A barrier. Dad, you staying the night? Me, just tonight. Mom, forcing cheer. Oh, nonsense, stay longer. We can make breakfast like old times. Me, I think one night will be enough. The air felt heavier than before, as if the house itself was holding its breath. The walls seemed to lean in, listening. Somewhere, a clock ticked slow, deliberate, the sound of time rubbing salt into memory. Her smile froze every few seconds. The way her fingers twisted her apron told me she wasn't sure what to say, or maybe she was waiting for the right moment to say what she really wanted. I watched them both move through the kitchen like actors who'd forgotten their lines. Their politeness didn't fit right anymore, to polished, to sudden, to fragile. Every part of me screamed to leave, to walk out before they asked, because I knew they would. But something inside me wanted to hear it, wanted them to say the words that had once shattered me. I wasn't here to forgive. I was here to confirm nothing had changed. Mom's voice. 15 years ago, we can't afford your tuition, honey. Your sister's wedding is more important. You'll understand one day. I never did. Mom, you must have done well for yourself. That bracelet real silver? Me. Half smile real enough? Her hand twitched almost like she wanted to touch it. Dad, you always had expensive taste. Still, practical, I hope? Me. I learned practicality from you. His mouth flattened. A silence stretched between us long enough for me to hear the hum of the refrigerator and the faint tremor in my own heartbeat. Outside, a branch scraped the window. Inside, the ceiling light flickered once, a dull, yellow pulse that made her face look almost hollow. For a second, she looked like the woman from my memories, sharp, restless, waiting for her chance to take something. I leaned back, studying them like strangers. They wanted to play family. I wanted to play witness. That's all this visit was, documentation of decay. Mom, softly, it's good you came back. Maybe we can start over? Me, maybe. The lie slid out smoother than expected. Later that night, I woke to the sound of their voices arguing in whispers about how to ask me for money again. This time, I didn't cry. I made them listen, every word, every silence, every lie they ever fed me. Morning light spilled through the half-drawn curtains, soft and golden, the kind of light that pretends everything's fine. My father sat at the table reading the paper. He didn't care about my mother buttering toast she wouldn't eat. I stood there, mug in hand, steady. For once, I wasn't trembling. The air felt too quiet, too staged, like they were both waiting for me to speak first, to make it easy for them. I didn't. I let the silence crawl across the room until it felt alive. My bracelet brushed the edge of the cup, the faint clink sharp as a trigger. I'd spent all night rehearsing what to say. But now that I saw their faces, older, smaller, meaner, the words came on their own. Emmy, do you remember the hospital? Dad, folding paper, forcing calm. Hospital? Me, when I begged you for help. When your grandson was dying. Mom, frowning. Maya, that was years ago. Me, 15. 15 years of pretending it didn't happen. Their eyes darted to each other, a flicker of shared guilt or strategy. I couldn't tell which anymore. Dad, tight voice, we did what we could. You made your own choices. Me, you spent $300,000 on her engagement party. Mom, snapping, don't bring your sister into this. Me, oh, I will, because while you were busy buying her diamonds, I was selling my car to pay for a child's treatment. A muscle twitched near my father's temple, the same tell he had when he used to lie about misplaced savings. Dad, we thought it was temporary. You never told us it was that serious. Me, voice low, I showed you the reports. You said, and I quote, he's not our responsibility. Mom, voice trembling, you're twisting things. We were under stress. Me, no, you were embarrassed. You didn't want the neighbors to see me begging for help. She looked down, her hands shaking as she buttered the same slice of toast again, spreading the knife over crumbs that didn't need it. Nervous tick, guilt dressed as distraction. The smell of burnt bread filled the room, bitter and dry. A fly buzzed near the window, hitting the glass again and again, desperate to escape. The refrigerator hummed behind me, low and constant, almost like a growl. I'd spent years wondering what I'd say if I ever faced them again. Whether I'd scream, cry, break something. But I didn't. There was no heat left in me, just clarity. I'd come prepared. My phone was recording in my pocket, a single red dot glowing like a heartbeat. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was documentation. Proof that they were still who I remembered. Me, you said I was ungrateful, that I ruined your reputation by leaving. But you never asked why I left. Dad, Defensive laugh because you were dramatic. Always playing the victim. Mom, interrupting, Maya please. Let's not dig up the past. Me. The past never left. It's sitting right here, pretending to eat breakfast. She flinched. His jaw clenched. Emmy. Steady tone. Do you remember when you told me I'd learn respect when I have my own family? I did. And it taught me what not to become. Mom, coldly, you think you're better than us now. Me. No, just cleaner. For a second, silence, the thick kind, where even the house stops breathing. A clock ticked. Somewhere, a door hinge creaked. Dust floated in the sunlight like ash. My mother's eyes glimmered, not with sadness, with calculation. The bracelet on my wrist, their old gift. The one I'd kept, recorded every word through the mic I'd hidden inside the clasp. It wasn't just symbolic anymore. It was evidence. Dad, angry now, turn that off. I can see what you're doing. Me. Good. Maybe this time, you'll finally listen. Mom, standing abruptly, you're humiliating us in our own home. Me. Funny. I thought that's what family was for. She slammed her palm against the table. The coffee trembled in its cup, the sound sharp, final. Mom, you're ungrateful. After everything we did, me, everything you did was for yourself. I realized then control had shifted. For years, their words had dictated my silence. Now, mine were the ones that made them flinch. The light hit my bracelet again, scattering silver across the tablecloth. My mother's eyes followed it, narrowing like she finally sensed what it truly was. Dad, gritting teeth, you're leaving, right? Me, after breakfast. Mom, soft, venomous, you regret this, Maya? Her voice was calm to calm. The kind that hides a storm. As I stepped out, the recording still running, I wondered if she meant regret. Or revenge. Regret wasn't mine, it was theirs. The video hit the internet like a match to gasoline. I didn't post it. I didn't need to. Someone else, maybe a relative, maybe one of my father's colleagues, slipped it into the wild. The sound was unmistakable. My mother's voice sharp, defensive, trembling with guilt, and my father's laughter that cracked midway, like glass under pressure. I listened to it once, maybe twice, just to confirm it was real. Then I put my phone face down and let silence work again. The same silence they once used to destroy me. This isn't fair, my sister texted that night. They're humiliated. I stared at her message for a long moment, then typed. So was I, then I deleted it. Left her on read. Because truth didn't need my defense. It had already begun to feed on its own momentum. News clips, gossip threads, half-blurred screenshots. Their faces, once symbols of respectability, now scrolled beneath words like liars, abusers, hypocrites. By the third day, my father stopped showing up at the community board. A neighbor sent me a photo. Him walking across the parking lot, alone, head down, phone pressed to his ear. The same man who once told me reputation is everything now moved through the world like someone allergic to his own reflection. At work, people whispered. At home, I imagined the kitchen, that same table where I recorded them, now covered with silence and unpaid bills. Every sound I pictured felt muted. Forks scraping plates, a kettle boiling over, my mother's footsteps pacing the same details. When my phone rang one evening, I knew it was her before even checking. Her tone was brittle, soaked in self-pity. Mother, you've ruined us, Maya. Are you proud? Me. I didn't post anything. Mother, don't lie. Who else would have a reason to? Me. Maybe someone who finally believed me. A long breath followed. I heard something clatter. Maybe her cup, maybe her composure. Mother, we raised you. We loved you. Me. You managed the first. Failed the second. Silence. Then her whisper, the same one she used when she wanted control but knew she'd lost it. Mother, you regret this. I almost laughed. Almost. But instead, I let the line die in static. That night, I went walking. No music, no destination. Just the sound of wind tugging at leaves and the faint hum of traffic. For the first time in years, my hands weren't shaking. There was no rush of adrenaline, no guilt. Just a quiet, measured calm. The kind that comes when justice doesn't roar, it breathes. The next morning, a new email waited in my inbox. No sender name, just an address I hadn't seen in years. Subject, before you hate me forever. Attachment, voice message 01, MP3. I froze, staring at it. The timestamp read 2:43 a.m. I didn't click play, not yet, because even though regret finally belonged to them, I could feel something shifting, the kind of silence that didn't promise peace, but another storm. The file blinked on my screen, waiting, as if the past itself had just hit reply. Her voice trembled not from guilt, but from fear. The cursor blinked over the email like a pulse. My chest tightened with something I didn't want to name, not anticipation, not pity, just that cold edge before the storm hits. The file's name was Ordinary. Voice message 01, MP3. No greeting, no explanation. Just her voice waiting inside the silence. I clicked play. Her breathing came first. Shallow, uneven, almost metallic through the mic. Then her whisper, Maya, if you're hearing this, I guess I didn't get the chance to see you again. I froze. She sounded smaller. Not the woman who once spat words like venom across the kitchen table. This was a voice from the edge. Brittle, stripped, frightened. I'm not well. The doctors said. A dry cough interrupted. Said it's spreading faster now. I leaned back in my chair. The room felt too quiet, too alive. The refrigerator hummed in the background. Somewhere outside, a car door slammed. Every ordinary sound suddenly felt intrusive, like it didn't belong in this moment. I know what people think of me, she continued. That I was cruel, controlling. Maybe I was, but not for the reasons you believe. Her tone wavered, not guilt. Something sharper. You had something I didn't, Maya. You survived. I frowned. What the hell does that even mean? I muttered under my breath. You had this strength, this way of looking me in the eye when I yelled. You never cried the way I did when he shouted. You never broke. I hated that. I hated that you reminded me of the woman I could have been if I'd just walked away sooner. Her words crawled under my skin. The way she said he no name, just a shadow. My father's ghost lingering in every syllable. So I punished you. Because I couldn't punish myself. A pause. Her breath hitched. Every time I looked at you, I saw my own weakness laughing back at me. I pressed pause. My hand was trembling. The irony hit hard. The woman who spent years crushing me for being too cold, too distant, now choking on her own confessions. I stood, pacing across the living room. My reflection flashed in the window glass. Pale, tense, jaw locked. Was this what she wanted? Forgiveness? Closure? No, she wanted control, even now, even dying. I hit play again. You think I don't know what I took from you. But I do. Every night. I see your face when you left. The way you didn't cry, that silence was worse than any scream. Her voice broke, cracking between words. You didn't need us, and that terrified me. Because if you didn't need me, then what was I? Nothing. She coughed again. I heard metal scrape, maybe the hospital bed frame. I told myself I was teaching you discipline, but I was really teaching you how to live without love. I felt my throat tighten. For years, I'd imagined what this conversation might sound like, maybe apology, maybe denial. But this was decay, a confession soaked in bitterness, not redemption. Your father always said you'd come back one day. He was wrong. A faint laugh, hollow as wind. He's not the same anymore. You broke him, Maya. The video, the whispers. He barely leaves his room. Something inside me twitched, a flicker of guilt I hated myself for feeling. But it passed quickly. They'd earned every second of their silence. I wish I could tell you I'm sorry, she whispered. But sorry feels too small for what I did. Maybe this is just me trying to make peace before I go. Her breathing grew rougher. You were always stronger than I wanted you to be. I see that now. And I think I wanted to destroy that strength because I couldn't stand the mirror it held up. I closed my eyes. For the first time, I could almost hear the young woman she once was, trapped, scared, unloved. And I hated that part of me wanted to feel something for her. But forgiveness isn't compassion. It's exhaustion. And I was tired. So damn tired. Maya, she whispered at last. You are still my daughter. Even if you hate me. The message ended. No music. No fade out. Just a faint rustle. Maybe the nurse closing the door. Maybe her last movement before silence swallowed her. I sat there for a long time. Phone still glowing. Reflection staring back through the black screen. My hands felt numb, my mind heavy. The confession didn't heal anything. It just replaced rage with something colder. Understanding. And understanding can be its own kind of prison. The file ended, but another notification blinked beneath it. One unread message from Dad. Forgiveness felt like betrayal, but revenge was getting heavy too. The city glittered beneath me, but I couldn't feel it. From the penthouse window, everything looked small. The streets, the people, even my memories. The audio file was still open on my laptop, paused right before her final whisper. I hadn't closed it. I couldn't. That single sentence, "you are still my daughter, even if you hate me," kept looping in my mind like a curse that refused to die. I poured another glass of whiskey, the ice clicking against crystal. The sound filled the silence that had been swallowing this place for months. Inside me, two versions of myself argued, the one who wanted to burn every last trace of them, and the one who just wanted peace. Revenge had been intoxicating once. Every secret exposed, every lie dragged into daylight. It had kept me alive. But now, it felt like carrying a corpse on my back. Their shame, my satisfaction, both starting to rot. My phone buzzed an email notification. Subject: no response yet? It was from Daniel, my lawyer. "You sure you don't want to send them a statement? The press is still asking for your comment." I stared at the screen, fingers hovering above the keyboard. My reflection looked back at me in the glass. Sharp eyes, calm face, but hollow behind it. "No," I whispered. "Let silence do the talking." I leaned back, watching the ceiling lights ripple in my drink. Maybe this was what freedom felt like. Quiet, but heavy. Like standing at the edge of an ocean you finally crossed, realizing there's no one waiting on the other side. For years, I'd told myself that revenge was justice, that making them suffer meant balance. But when my mother's voice cracked in that message, the bitterness melting into something almost human, I realized the truth. She hadn't destroyed me because she hated me. She did it because she couldn't love herself. "You're thinking too much again." I turned. Daniel's voice echoed through the speaker. I'd accidentally answered the call. "Still brooding over the recording?" "Brooding?" I scoffed softly. "That's one word for it. You did what needed to be done," he said. "They paid for it. You exposed them. The rest is noise." I watched the ice melt, forming small cracks across the cubes. "Yeah," I murmured, "but noise can still echo." "Can it?" he sighed. "You're overanalyzing. Move on, Maya. You've already won." "Winning," I said quietly, "doesn't feel like this." I ended the call before he could respond. A faint hum filled the room, the refrigerator again, the steady pulse of the city outside. I opened my laptop and minimized the email. Instead, I opened a new browser tab. Search bar. Foundations for abused or neglected children. One by one, I read their missions, survival stories, recovery programs, safe houses. Somewhere between the scrolling and the silence, I found one that felt right. I transferred $100,000 anonymously. No message, no name, just a single note in the memo. For the ones who survived quietly. It wasn't forgiveness. It was defiance, the quiet kind, breaking the pattern by refusing to play their game anymore. I closed the laptop, letting darkness reclaim the room. The whiskey glass was empty. The night felt clean for once. Maybe healing didn't look like victory. Maybe it looked like stillness. But as I turned off the lights and headed toward the bedroom, the doorbell rang, a single chime. Soft, deliberate, wrong. I froze. Nobody ever visited unannounced. Not here. Not now. The hallway light flickered as I approached the door. Through the peephole, nothing. Just the faint hum of the corridor. I hesitated before opening it. Just a crack. A small brown package sat neatly on the floor. No return address. Only a white label with my name, written in handwriting I hadn't seen in years. The handwriting was shaky but unmistakable. My father's. Inside the package was the one thing I thought I'd lost forever. The bracelet lay on my palm, cold and familiar. The tiny silver beads dull with time. But the small letter M still faintly glimmering under the light. My breath trembled as I traced it with my thumb. That bracelet had once meant everything to me. Until the night my mother told me she'd thrown it away. For years, I believed that was her final message. That I didn't deserve to be remembered. The note beneath it was written in her unmistakable slant. I kept it safe. "Maybe part of me still loved you." My throat tightened. "Part of me?" I whispered, the words cutting through the silence of the room like glass scraping wood. The city lights outside my penthouse window flickered, the hum of traffic distant, almost muffled, like the world had turned down its volume just for this moment. I didn't realize I was crying until a tear hit the paper, smudging the ink into a blur of gray. Not from forgiveness. No, that part of me was long dead, but something quieter, heavier. Closure, maybe. Or the strange ache of realizing the person you've spent years hating might have still wanted to be understood. A knock on the door jolted me. Not sharp, just hesitant. 3 slow taps. I froze. And a one came here without calling first. I wiped my face, slid the bracelet back into the box, and approached the door. My fingers hovered over the handle, cold metal against my skin. Who's there? Silence. The hallway beyond the peephole was empty, just the dim hum of the motion sensor lights. But something small sat on the floor. Another envelope, plain white, no return address. I picked it up with careful hands and shut the door behind me, sliding the deadbolt. My heart was calm, but my mind wasn't. Inside the envelope, there was only a photograph. Me 6 years old asleep in my hospital bed. The same bracelet around my wrist. And behind me, my mother, sitting in the chair beside me, eyes red but smiling. For the first time in years, I saw her not as the villain of my memories, but as a person who had been breaking quietly beside me. Why now? I whispered to the empty room. The air conditioner clicked off, leaving a sudden stillness. My reflection in the window looked older than I remembered, tired, worn, but still standing. The phone on my desk buzzed. One notification from the foundation I'd donated to earlier. The message read, "Your donation will help children without families find safety. Thank you for believing they deserve love." I smiled faintly. That was all I wanted to change, the pattern, to make sure pain didn't pass down like inheritance. But just as I started to breathe again, the phone buzzed once more. This time, it wasn't from the foundation. Unknown number. I hesitated, thumb hovering. One message. "You forgot something, Maya." The words sat on the screen, still glowing when I read them again. "What?" I murmured. I checked the package again. Bracelet, note, photo, nothing else. Then I noticed something. On the back of the photo, faintly pressed into the paper, the outline of another word, maybe written before the ink had dried. I held it against the light. Basement. The air turned colder. My penthouse didn't even have a basement. But her old house did. The one I hadn't visited since she died. The one I swore I'd never step into again. I looked down at the bracelet, now catching the glow of the desk lamp. Its silver beads reflected the city, fractured, scattered, like memories refusing to fade cleanly. My pulse slowed, but something deep inside me stirred again. That same quiet fury I thought I'd buried with her. Maybe closure isn't the same as peace. Maybe some ghosts don't want to rest. I turned the bracelet in my hand, feeling its weight lighter than I remembered, yet heavy enough to pull me back. "All right," I said under my breath, almost smiling. One last time. The city outside rumbled, faint thunder rolling over the skyline as if answering. I slid the bracelet onto my wrist, and for the first time in years, it fit perfectly. As I set the bracelet on my desk, my phone buzzed again. This time, a voice message from that same unknown number, and a woman softly whispering, "Don't come alone."